Monday, October 10th, 2022. It's 4 o'clock. We're in the Carson City Community Center in the Robert Bob Kroll Boardroom for the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority Board of Directors meeting. Linda, can we get a roll call?
Yes, Mike Jones,
Here.
Bobby Rader, Stacy Giomi,
Here.
Steve Reynolds, Steve Kim.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everyone. It's now time for public comment. I don't think we have any public comment today, but I'll ask anyway. Not seeing any, we will move on to item 5. Approval of minutes of September 12th, 2022 CTA board meeting. Would any board member have any changes or corrections to the minutes for September's meeting? Hearing none, if I can get a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. If there's anyone from the public have anything they'd like pulled from the consent agenda for individual discussion? If not, I'll ask the directors or the board members, would you like anything pulled for individual discussion from the consent agenda? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda as written.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. That moves on to item 9, discussion only, presentation and discussion regarding the Great Western Steam Up held in July of 2022. I know, David, we have Todd here from the Great Western Steam Up, Friends of, is going to give us
Friends of the Nevada State Railroad Museum, yeah. Todd Moore is the president, yeah.
Give us,
Yeah, press the green.
My name's Todd Moore. I'm the president of the Board of Trustees of the Friends of the Nevada State Railroad Museum. And the Great Western Steam Up was my brainchild about 3 years ago. And all of you were really instrumental in the success of that event. And so I thank you for allowing me to come here and recap it for you. About a year ago, go up maybe. All right, technical issues. When you work with steam engines, you're used to technical issues. About a year ago, when we presented our request for support to all of you, I had this slide which talks about what our goals were. We were coming out of COVID, which was a very difficult time for the Railroad Museum as well as most businesses, I think. We went from about 40,000 annual visitors to 14,000 visitors. So we were looking for an event to put us back on the map, so to speak. We were also trying to make sure that we reestablish the museum as an important cultural resource, both for Carson City and the Western United States region. We were also looking to form and strengthen partnerships with some of our sister institutions. That includes other local museums like the Nevada State Museum, like the Dayton Valley Historical Society, but also with other railroad museums in the Western United States. We all tended to live at that point in our own individual silos. We were also looking to fundraise for events. As you know, it's very hard to come by money to support cultural events. We also wanted just to promote Carson City and Northern Nevada as a whole, as a destination for history and adventure tourism. And we think that the Railroad Museum is a great example of that. With our operating steam locomotives, it's a great way to show history in a way that is fun for visitors. We were projecting ticket sales, since we'd never done anything like this before. We were really going out on a limb, and we hoped to sell $5,000 to $10,000 or 10,000 tickets at $29 a ticket. We were hoping for about 20 to 50% of our projected attendees to stay in local hotels. We were also trying to estimate how much those attendees would spend. And then, of course, we had our target audience of people, and that's really who we directed our advertising and outreach to. The projections were really based on the fact that on a typical 4th of July weekend, which is our biggest weekend for the Railroad Museum, we would expect about 1,500 visitors for all 4 days. So we thought we can probably quadruple that number with the lineup of locomotives that we were hoping to put together. So how did we actually do? We really blew away our expectations. We're very surprised that we sold over 7,500 paid admissions. We were not able to adequately secure the entire site. We estimate that we had over 8,000 total visitors. A lot of people snuck in through the side of the event. We had 12 different local museums that participated. This was all the way from our friends at the California State Railroad Museum in Sacramento, all the way out to the East Ely Depot Museum in the eastern part of this state. We were in the black for the event. All in all, we've raised about $50,000 to support the programs for the Nevada State Railroad Museum. We used about $120,000 in seed money from the private funds that the Nevada Board of History and Museums has. We will be able to repay all of that money. So the $50,000 is clear of those contributions. We were really surprised this event took on an international scope. There was a great receptivity to it. I personally talked to visitors from Europe who planned a trip to the United States just for the purpose of attending this event. We also had a lot of, as you know, during the summer, there are a lot of European tourists who are visiting the Eastern Sierra, and we were able to draw them up to the Carson City area for our event when they otherwise would not do that. Also, we had a very robust media campaign. So we were on television, we were on radio, we were on billboards all the way out into the Sacramento market. We were on social media nationwide, but really targeting the areas of Southern California, the San Francisco Bay Area, and the Sacramento metropolitan area. All told, we yielded over 12 million impressions of the event through our media outreach campaign. Through the good efforts of your staff, we were able to send a survey to all of our ticket purchasers. So all of our ticket purchasing was through an online platform, eTix. So we were able to capture visitor information. We were very surprised to see that 28% of the people who came to our event were first-time visitors to Carson City. Another 22% had only visited the city 1 or 2 times within the last couple of years. And then 37% stayed 1 or more nights. We were very surprised. We intentionally set up the event schedule to encourage multi-day visits. And I think it paid off very handsomely with 27% of our visitors staying 2 or more nights. 80% of our overnight visitors stayed in a hotel or a motel. And then 80% of our visitors participated in another local activity. Obviously, there were a lot of V&T fans in town for the event. And I know from talking to Tom Gray up at the V&T, it was one of their biggest weekends in a long time. They added extra trains actually to accommodate all the visitors who were in town. But I know everywhere I went, there were people at restaurants talking about the event. At the hotel I stayed in, there were people in the parking lot at 1 o'clock in the morning talking about the event and what they were doing. So there were a lot of our event attendees pretty much everywhere in town. A lot of people are asking us, well, what are you going to do in the future? And we are already working on our next major event. We haven't quite settled on what the interval is going to be, and that's for a couple of reasons. One is that our sister museum, the Nevada State Railroad Museum in Boulder City, was so impressed with the event that now they want to do one too. They'll have to license the idea from us. And so we're waiting for them to pin down a little bit better when their event is going to be so that we don't step on their toes when we put on our own. but we're in the early planning stages of the Great Western Railcar Roundup, which will be an event which will bring in the motorized rail cars from throughout the United States. So we'll have a Galloping Goose from Colorado. We'll have motor cars from some of the tourist railroads in California, as well as a motor car from Washington State. So we'll be bringing those in from all over the West. We're looking at a similar event. Now, it won't be, I think, on the historic proportions of gathering all those V&T engines back together again, but we think it will be a unique draw, and we think because of the reputation and the good feelings that our visitors have, that it's realistic for us to expect a similar number of attendees for that event, just because we'd be building on the momentum. The earliest that we would be doing it would be in 2024. There's the possibility that that gets stretched out to possibly a 5-year interval, which would be 2027. But we've already got a committee of folks who's working very hard at putting that event together. They've already reached out to the other museums that would participate and have had positive feedback. So I'll certainly report back to all of you as that gets in better formation. But the other thing we're doing on this is that we're really trying to up the events that we do have. The Friends of the Nevada State Railroad Museum is spending about $7,000 to promote our Harvest Train event this weekend, so we're expecting a good crowd. We are targeting more of a local audience for that event. We plan to highlight 4 events throughout the year: our Easter Egg Express in the spring, our 4th of July event, and then our Harvest Train in the fall, and then our Santa Train event in the wintertime. So we're hoping to draw a bigger audience for all 4 of those to really keep the momentum going from the Great Western Steam Up. But I really wanted to say, most of all, thank you. We would not have put together the caliber of event that we did without the support of all of you. And I, in particular, want to thank your staff at the Visit Carson City offices, who really helped us in more ways than I can even mention. But the logo that you see that looks so great, that was really through the great help of Lydia and team. Dave was really instrumental in getting us together with our event coordinator. You just have such a great resource here for people who are putting on events in Carson City to just make them at the next level and make them the kind of international draw that they can be. And I hope that the Great Western Steam Up has shown other organizations what a gem Carson City is. I think for too long, people have thought of Carson City as, not an event space, and that's really not true. We've got some great cultural resources here, the Railroad Museum being one of them, that are just set up for great events like this. And so we look forward to building upon the future based on what we've done here in the past, and hopefully we'll have your support in the future as well. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
No, I think it's, I'll start and then I'll get to the members, but thrilled it was a success for you, and really it's a success for the city. It couldn't have gone off any better, I think. I get that it can't really lend itself to be a yearly event, but 24 or 27, whenever we can have that event back, we love it. And our fellow Nevadians down in Boulder, I don't think they really want it. But I did have, it was interesting, I thought that the different events, I had Dave pull some of it in. It was sort of the usual suspects. You thought V&T would be very popular in Virginia City, but what were the, David?
Yeah, so in terms of how we kind of ranked the different activities and locations, Virginia City was number 1, followed by V&T Railroad. Shopping as an activity was number 3. The Nevada State Railroad, the Nevada State Museum was number 4, and then hiking was number 5 in terms of activities that people engaged in while they were here for the event. So I think that's a nice
I thought it was
mix.
80% of the people did something else too, so it was great for the
And there
city.
were a lot of people that made big trips out of it. So a lot of our visitors from the East Coast came and they saw all of the railroad museums in the West as part of the trip. So it had fabulous follow-on effects. We are still seeing a whole bunch of social media posts about the event. It's incredible. We've never put on an event where months after the fact, people are producing videos about the event and posting them. And
Well, 12 million impressions.
yeah,
That's impressive.
it blew us all away. I think we needed to have an event where we stuck our necks out to see what we were capable of. And I think we were all very pleasantly surprised at what we were able to do.
All right. I think Board Member Reynolds, you have a question?
What kind of feedback did you get from the other entities that brought displays over, such as the California State Museum or some of the others? Any interesting comments on the event?
Yes. So this was a who's who of the rail preservation community came to this event. Some of you may know the California State Railroad Museum did similar events in 1981, 1991, and 1999. So it's been over 20 years since anyone did an event like this. And the comments we got from people who planned and participated in those events were that ours was the best event of its kind that they had been to. They thought that it was very well planned. It was very well executed. We had visitors in mind for all of the events, right down to the schedule of the trains that ran and when they ran and how they ran, how the facility was laid out. They were also just very pleased with the volunteers and how well organized that was. There's almost always in an event like this some big element that somebody forgot that causes people to have a bad experience. And so we spent a lot of time studying the postmortems on the other events and finding out what they did wrong or what they could have done better, and we improved them. So we met with the people who were in charge of those California State Railroad Museum events. I attended, within the last 5 years, the other two events that were on the East Coast that had to do with this. And then last summer, the museum participated in a big event in Colorado. And so we were paying close attention to what was going on with that event. And knock on wood, we I think have this formula down, and I think we understand what it takes to put on a good railroad themed event that will draw people in from around the country.
Do you think, I have a few questions. Do you think if you did it too often, it would sort of dilute the excitement surrounding it? I mean, I'd love to see it every 3 years, but maybe that's too soon. I mean, maybe it wouldn't, generate as much interest. So I'd like to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've given that a lot of thought, and I'm not sure
Okay.
of what the answer would be. I think part of the draw of this event was that it was such a rare
Right.
gathering of equipment. And so if we were to do that every 3 years, it wouldn't have the rarity. But I think also part of it was just the opportunity to see a lot of this equipment operating and have the opportunity to ride behind it. And part of me thinks that if we were to do it more often, this would actually snowball and we would get more people. And so that's why we're trying to think of a little bit different takes on it. So rather than just repeat the event exactly in 3 years, we're trying to do it in a little bit of a different way, and maybe we get more word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
One comment that really shocked me, I worked the front gate of the event for most of it, and so I would talk to visitors when they came in. A lot of people, when they left, said, I've never been to this museum before. I had no idea such a wonderful place was here. And not all of them were from California or other states. A lot of them were from here.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, if we can do this more often and this becomes better known, our events will just build on themselves. And so we're going to give it a try. It was an enormous amount of work to pull it off. We had to draw in volunteers from every museum in the state of Nevada system. So we had 12 volunteers from Boulder City. We had 2 volunteers from the Lost City Museum. So we could not have done this without a huge amount of effort. It kind of broke the museum, to be honest with you. Our staff was off for almost a month after the event just because people had built up so much overtime that they kind of had to take that off. So we're balancing a lot of competing factors there. And so we're trying to figure out what's the closest possible interval that we could hold an event like
And
this
survive.
without breaking ourselves. Exactly right.
Were the rail bikes running at the same time? Was there a,
Yes.
yeah, okay. And that's funny that that wasn't listed higher on that list to me.
Well, I'm thinking maybe just B and T,
Yeah.
the depot in the general sense, might have been how
Put it
that
in
was
there, yeah,
scored,
yeah.
yeah. So I was kind of
So,
counting.
Todd, my last question is, what challenges did you have? What could have gone better? Because there's always that in mind.
I think we didn't really comprehend how far in advance you need to plan for some of the elements. For instance, we did not book tents early enough. So all the tents for our event actually were trucked up from Las Vegas because all the local tents were booked by the time we got around to booking them. So a lot of those infrastructure things we would do further in advance. The state of Nevada contracting system is cumbersome, to say the least. So we did not have our trucker contract in place until about 3 weeks before the event, which added a lot of stress on trying to get all this railroad equipment coordinated and delivered and then brought back to where it came from. So those are the two things I would improve.
But the parking, which I kind of thought would be an issue, wasn't really an issue in your mind.
I'm not sure where all those people parked. It wasn't in the lot that we asked them to
Right.
park in.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I saw people come in from all over
Yeah,
during the event, but we did not receive any complaints
Okay.
from neighbors about people parking in their parking lots. I would like to figure out parking a little bit better. We had a great plan and we spent a fortune on a shuttle bus that went back and forth with about 10 people in
oh,
it
that's too bad.
on most trips. So that's another element that we need to iron out. I think for our next event, we will not close the parking lot, so we'll still have some on-site
Oh, yeah.
parking. We're going to format it a little bit differently. We had an issue with not enough ADA compliant parking. That was a tough one for us.
Well, finally, on behalf of the city, thank you and your staff, volunteers, everything. It was absolutely a premier event. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Well, we could not have done it without you. You guys were the critical early supporters that we were able to leverage to get a lot of other people to come in and help us too. And without your early commitment, I don't think this event would have happened.
Any other comments from the board?
Chair, Todd deserves a lot of credit here and the friends of that organization.
I don't know
really
if there's
did
enough credit.
pull everybody together, honestly, the different entities. So
No,
kudos to Todd and the
Mm.
whole team. So
it was an absolute home run from everybody involved. So thanks to
Well,
everyone.
we're looking forward to when another organization in town tops us. I think I mean that. When David told me that this was the biggest ticketed event in the history of Carson City, I almost couldn't believe it because I thought, oh, there has to have been something bigger. Then I thought, well, you know what? It's time for other groups to step it up and start delivering events like this for the community as well.
There you go. Well, thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Appreciate you taking time out of your day to give us the breakdown.
My pleasure, and I look forward to coming back sometime soon.
Yep, us too.
Thank you. We'll do it as soon as we can.
All right, right. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 10, Executive Director's update.
thank you, Chair. I've just got a couple things. Thank you, Todd. A couple things on my report. So the team's working on a second cycle marketing grant application through the Nevada Commission on Tourism right now. Due this Friday. We've got 4 projects that we're pursuing for the remainder of fiscal '23. One of those projects is to contract with a content creator specifically who specializes in TikTok to help us grow our presence on that particular platform. A little background, nearly 1 in 3 travelers turns to social media for holiday inspiration, but on TikTok alone, the hashtag travel boasts 74.4 billion views, according to a study that just came out. So we're really trying to tap in, get some expertise, get Lydia and Zach some help on that front with TikTok. Second component of this request, we're hoping to do another Expedia co-op grant for the spring, and I think it's February through May-ish. Okay. Third component will actually be to help with the costs around booth and single book registration for IPW in Texas in May. So we're hoping to be a part of the Travel Nevada space where we were in Florida with some other destinations in Nevada. So hoping to get some support there. And then the last component, and this is new for us, is with Datafy. So they're a visitor analytics company that we hope to leverage to allow us to track not only where people are coming from, we're talking about events here, but what they're spending and doing in Carson City, but to give us some additional data that narrows down then where we'll actually invest our marketing dollars. So this will be a benefit not only to what Stu works on, but also the different arts and culture events that Deborah is working on. So if we can get this grant, I mean, our first full-scale event that will implement this technology would be the Mark Twain Days Festival in April. So excited to leverage some of the new technology that's out there with people's mobile devices. So that's an update on the marketing grants end of things. And then we're also in the process, and Deborah's running point for us on this, preparing a concept proposal for Travel Nevada's Destination 3D grant program. So they are looking to award 6 proposals in this first kind of phase. 3 will start in January, the other 3 will start in September, but then those 6 proposals will have $2 million available to them to implement the concept, so to take the concept to plan and then implementation. And we're proposing a arts and heritage trail as a virtual trail that will connect us with Virginia City and the Carson Valley area markets for arts, culture, history, heritage. So I'm excited about this. Deborah's done something similar in the past up in Canada, and we actually just had Linda Ritter here, who's the interim up in Virginia City. She loved it. We'll be meeting with Jan, my peer down in Carson Valley later this week to hopefully put this kind of co-branded, co-DMO focused proposal together. So I'm just excited. I think we have a huge opportunity here in front of us. So again, only 6 are going to be awarded, so it's going to be very competitive. But that's my update. I don't know if any board members have any questions on that front. I'll go ahead and continue then. Thank you. 10B, the transient occupancy tax actual versus forecast, the big 11 by 17 sheet in your packet. And I am happy to say August, second column, we're looking to do $3,035,000. So right now we're projected to not only beat last year's record for the month of August, but our budgeted number as well. So turn things around a little bit in August, and hopefully September will be similar. But I'm not changing anything outward yet because I kind of want to see things just, it's still hard to project these numbers, you guys. It's like each month is something new pops up and comes along, but I'm very pleased with the August number. I think the properties had high RevPAR, high ADRs, and I'm excited to see that number. So happy to address any questions that the board may have on our projected TOT for the fiscal year. Okay.
Questions?
Okay.
No.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to 10C, which is our events and sales update. Mr. Wexler, take it away, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to add on what Todd was talking about as far as the international exposure. Just from what I've seen in the short time I've been here, we seem to be really having an exposure internationally where people are very interested in Carson City, not just Las Vegas, but we see a lot of just enticement coming to Carson City. And also on the steam up, when I was there, most of the people parked in the CVS parking lot. Just to let you, that's where I saw a lot of people coming out there. And I don't think, like Todd said, they really didn't say anything. There was no complaints, but there is a lot of international intrigue about Carson, which I mean, I was in the office today. I had some French people coming in, and they were just traveling the United States. They were here in Carson. They were heading to Reno, the Tahoe, and they, wanted to kind of get an idea for Carson City. They heard of it, never been here, but they were very fascinated with the historic development of Carson City, and I think that is a great exposure for them too. So to begin with, so this coming weekend, Saturday, I've talked about before, is the Carson City Sheriff's K-9 Unit Challenge. It's at Fuji Park, and from what I understand, I've never attended before, but it's supposed to be fascinating. The pets, the animals they have there, the canines are extremely intelligent and very well trained. And Officer Riggins, who put this on for this year, came in last week and spoke to us. And this is a one-day event coming off of COVID. And he was telling us that he is getting a lot of inquiries from Southern California and Clark County area, to be participants. So the goal for next year is to expand to include more areas, especially California and Vegas area. And the K-9, with the loosening of restrictions, we see more challenges in California, Sutter County, Butte County, where they perform their own challenges. So our goal is to bring in more participants, expand it to a couple more days possibly than just having it one night. And they actually aired a challenge in Raleigh, North Carolina back in '21 on ESPN. So that kind of exposure for Carson City, I mean, if we were to get something like that, would be really immense and would really help us too. But I would, suggest going by there if you can. It's supposed to be very fascinating just to watch the challenges and the competition with the K-9s. So. And then the countdown is on. It's actually 33 days. NTA in Reno, the National Tourism Association, is starting early November. It's going to be the 13th through the 16th up at the Convention Center. And right now, what we're doing is there's a max of 45 appointments that we can make. So Lydia did this last year in between having somebody here. No, that was Go West. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. David did that. So what it is, it's 45 max. I have made requests for 42 appointments. As of today, it just opened up the appointment request. I have 10 appointments that have requested to visit with us, which is pretty good considering it's just been open a week now. So what we'll do is, it's not like IPW where we had a booth. I will be going to their booths. It's an 8-minute process. You get a minute to walk to the booth, and then you spend 7 minutes with each appointment that you can. So you have to do the shower pitch is what they call it. I have to sell Carson City in like 5 minutes, really. So it's the bullet points of, who we are, what we offer. And then I've never done this, so we'll see the results afterwards. Any questions so far on that for
So
anyone?
are there any these people are here for, are there any opportunities to actually get people to come to Carson City?
Go ahead, Stu. Yeah,
So
talk
what
about-
we
yeah,
are
yes.
doing is Sunday, November 13th, they have a sightseeing tour. Everyone that the DMOs signed up for it, we signed up for it. So it's going to be Mary Bennett, who does the Ghost Walk, and I that are going to be in a bus. And we're going to bring them from the hotel in Reno. We're going to be showing them a tour of the Nevada State Museum. We'll be there for a while, and then we're going to go over to the Stewart Indian School Museum and Cultural Center, where they will tour the campus, tour the museum. We'll have lunch there. They are on a tight schedule. They have to be back by 1:30 to the hotel. So we will be doing that. Right now, as it stands at 8, there are approximately 30 people signed up, which is not bad. Like David said, we could see a max of 50, possibly.
I think 56, right, on the bus.
56, yeah,
Yeah,
it just
plus or
depends, yeah.
minus. Mhm.
So there's still time for the tour operators to sign up for this, so.
And Stu, if I could just add, what's cool about this year, we don't have to share, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but we don't have to share the morning with Carson Valley. So we have them here in Carson City for that entire morning, which is great. So I think this worked out really, really nice, and the funding will come through the Reno Tahoe territory for our tours. We were able on the territory level to receive some grant funding, and so I'm excited about that as well, you know. So this was kind of a semi-budgeted, but not a fully budgeted for situation. But now that I know the territory will be covering and reimbursing all of our expenses, it's worked out quite nicely for us. So go ahead, Bobby. Yeah, sorry.
So I have a question. What time do you think they're going to be at Stewart, and are we expected to serve lunch?
I can't tell you that. No, I'm just kidding.
So yes, and we want to use Dale
I didn't want
because
to,
she
I
was
didn't
awesome.
want to,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So they're, I have the schedule here. I can give it to you. So about 8:15, they'll depart the hotel down there. And then hopefully by 9 o'clock, they'll be at the museum, tour that. And they're approximately, it's going to be about 10:20 to finish the tour at the museum. And then we'll head over to the Stewart Indian School. It shouldn't take that long. I think it took the last one about 20 minutes, going through with the bus. And then, like I said, they'll have to leave the Stewart Indian School about 12:15 to get back really in time by 1:30 to the hotel.
Okay.
But
And
I
Dave,
did print
you
out.
talk to Dale? that
Well,
day?
I did when we had the Mexican sales mission group there. I mentioned
Okay.
this to her, and
I'll talk
at the
to her.
time, obviously it was hard for me to say we were going to be at 30 or 40 or 50 people, but yes, I realize it's a little bigger than the Mexico sales mission group. So
Yes.
She'll be fine with that.
okay.
I just want to,
But we
yeah.
didn't have an idea then when Flores came in of how many people would be
Yeah.
on this sightseeing tour.
But it's a huge opportunity, you guys, for us to have our own tour. And this was sort of top of the list, as far as planning, because I recall being in Reno at the Nugget where we were talking about putting this together for 2020 when NTA was supposed to be here. And Stewart was requested, to be a part of the tour. So I, even thinking maybe something with the basket weaving, maybe we do a demo. I don't know what that many people, or we just take them on a tour. But Stu and I will get together and chat with you a little more. But I think it's a huge opportunity because if you think about it, it's kind of a one-on-one opportunity with these predominantly Western U.S. Motor coach and group tour operators. So I think it's an exciting opportunity.
And in fact,
And they're paying
they-
for the tour too. I
Yeah.
should mention, it's not free. They're paying to
they're
take this-
requesting us,
yeah,
so
and they're
which I
requesting
think
us.
is pretty
Yeah.
impressive too.
Yeah.
And Mary Bennett will be in costume on the bus, so I think that it will
Yeah.
add to the sightseeing.
And she was
tours.
awesome at the one we did for Go West. In fact, yeah, she was like the best, And this time, I should mention that NTA is actually requiring professional walk-on or step-on guides on the motor coaches. So they don't want, a yo-yo like me coming on and talking for 3 hours, which is difficult for me to do. So they want some professionals, So anyway, and Mary Bennett's agreed graciously to do this for us, so.
Yeah, that should be pretty fascinating. I think it'll be fun. And we're doing the Nevada Day Powwow at the MAC. The last time they had this was 2018, and then COVID came along. So obviously they haven't had it for a few years. It's a 3-day period. It's going to start Friday night about 7 o'clock and runs through Sunday till about 5:30. And in talking to Martin Montgomery, he was telling me in the past powwows, they've seen, 1,200 people. I've never been to it because everything was focused on Nevada Day when on that day for me. But over a 3-day period, they have people coming over from different states, vendors that come in from different states that want to be a participant in the powwow, and obviously just a guest and people who are going to be in on the powwow. So it was hard for him to estimate because this is the first one since COVID. But he's thinking it could be 800 to 1,200 people that come through over the 3-day period. So I think that's pretty nice. Have you? I don't know if anyone's been to it, but no.
I have.
You have?
Yeah. 2018. We were sponsors of it then in I think a different capacity, but there was quite a few people and they put on a great event.
Did they?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they're pretty excited about that, and plus that Nevada Day is going to be so busy that whole weekend. There's going to be so many activities to go to. It's going to be really great. And then just an update on the rugby. We are working on, when Todd was talking about international, this is becoming very popular on the international scene, and we are now securing the Carson High School football field to have this game on. It's going to be one day. We're going to do it over a 3-year period to get an idea. But the high school is just perfect. It's got everything in there. The bleachers, the lights, the turf. The people from the league said the turf from our high school is one of the best they've seen. And the school district has done some upgrades over the summer to the turf. So it's going to be in July, and we have a time. We're going to meet with the school district of operations here in a couple weeks. Tom and Richard are going to be coming up to meet with them, and that way the school can ask them certain questions about that too. And what they're looking, I don't know rugby, I know American football, but they have 2 international rugby stars, former players, that they're going to bring up to show Carson. Boyd Cordner and Todd Carney. They are very famous internationally. They are trying to solicit these 2 players to become the head coach of Team USA, which would have a huge international draw. They're very well known. Australia, England, Philippines. So they're going to bring them to Carson. We're going to show them around, entertain them, and they want them to see what Carson looks like. So if they can get these 2 as a head coach, that would be even add on to the event itself. They are having a kind of an exhibition in Winnemucca on the 22nd of this month. I'm going to go to it just to see, because like I said, I want to learn a little bit about rugby, because I have no idea how they score. So once we meet with the school district, then I can give you some more information. Any questions on?
Stu, can I just add a little context
Sure.
to the board? So one of the unique opportunities that we have, so many of the players from Australia and New Zealand come from mining towns. And the gentleman we're working with the California Rugby League, they're quite fascinated by our history here, tying Lake Tahoe to Virginia City and back to Carson City, as far as, timber, mines, coins, right, silver here. So our hope is, with them bringing out Boyd and Todd, to have them on video, so we'll be shooting some video, they'll be shooting some video, and then repurposing that video back in these countries, right? So we can drum up, kind of have a buildup, I guess, right, to next July and this game. So we're working some different angles. It's not just about just that one game. It's also about selling this destination, from a regional perspective to people from Australia and New Zealand and Europe, which is a perfect audience for us, right? If I had to pick a couple of, non-North American markets, we'd be in Australia. We'd be looking at the Germans, right? The folks from the UK. So I think this works very nicely for us. And I would just say we're looking at this as a long-term commitment. So they have a short-term, a 2 to 3 year, but they're looking at this as far as, and Stu, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, either the 2029 or the 2032 Rugby World Cup, and I'm probably not calling it by the right name, but it's a
Yeah,
it's a
I don't know what the
long-term
name
plan
is.
that they have to go from one game to maybe 2 games or 4 games here in Carson City. So I think we've got some, again, I think a really unique opportunity and a long-term build out, right, of what this sport could look like for Carson City. So
And they're building a training facility in eastern Nevada, so in the Elko area, which would be really close proximity. It wouldn't be taking them long to come over here. And they're willing to fly them into our airport too, Carson Airport. So, and along with that, they're going to have during this game their own international TV broadcast. So I think that'll give added exposure to what they're trying to do.
How do they pick Elko for their training facility?
The
Because of the
gateway
mining
is Salt Lake City,
connection?
yeah.
Oh, I see.
Salt
And then
Lake
the mining,
City.
because it's not, well, anyway, go ahead.
No, it's not just, it's Elko. Elko is a gateway to Salt Lake City and Vegas. And those are the 2 biggest areas where they actually have rugby games and tournaments, along with California. So they were able to secure some land to build that. I don't know when it's going to start, but it's because of how close they are to Salt Lake City and Vegas.
So will we also target market, because there's a pretty good sized Philippine community in Las Vegas. So I think we should, maybe do some targeted, which I assume you'll do.
We are,
to
yeah,
that
and
Philippine community and Southern California too, so which is our market as well.
absolutely, Stacy. Yeah, and as we progress a little further, I've mentioned what we're working on with the Travel Nevada team as well, because I would love to partner with them since they have in-market reps in Australia who cover New Zealand, Germany, the UK, right, to tap into those folks to help promote this internationally. We don't have that kind of representation in market, so I think we have a unique opportunity there from an international perspective. But absolutely, the Southern California, the Bay Area, I think will be huge, and then Las Vegas.
Bay Area is very huge.
Yeah.
For
Yeah, so I think and with Elko, we pull people from the eastern part of the state. I think we'll be able to tap into Salt Lake City, which falls into our normal DMA group, right, as far as our primary and secondary markets. So I think this will be quite nice for Carson City and for this region. So.
And I might have mentioned before, when I did have the owners of the league up, they're just so impressed with our area, the peace, the quiet. They couldn't believe looking from the high school field to the Tahoe Ridge Mountains. They were just blown away. Absolutely beautiful, they thought, and so they love this area. So I think that's another added value for that as well.
How far out in front of this do we get and start promoting it if the game's in July?
My thought is if these gentlemen come out in November, that's when they'll have the film crew with them, with the 2 gentlemen, that Boyd and Todd. Obviously, we need to get some reels cut, or whatever the right terminology would be, Lydia, but we'll need to get some spec video of them being here. And again, I would like to involve Travel Nevada, but I don't see why we can't start talking about this right after the first of the year, to be honest with you. Holidays are going to be tough, right, just admittedly, but I think January would be our opportunity, at least get the ball rolling, and with their help, and realize we might have to pull some partners and everything in, but that would be ideal, I think,
For me,
start in July.
I wanted to be able to secure the field, because without that, we were going to have to look at other options. And with the minute I took them to Carson High, they fell in love with it, and they said, this is the perfect spot. So I wanted to be able to secure that. We're going to meet with the school district field, director of operations and his team, and that way, whatever questions they have, obviously the league can answer those better than we can. Any other questions?
Stu, this is Steve. First, I apologize for this disruption. The fire alarms went off here at the Marriott. That was all the moving around and that noise. But I'm really psyched on this, and I want to help out any way I can. I'm a rugby fan. I have some knowledge of it. I don't know if they're going to be playing sevens or full-sided, but this is a great opportunity, I think, for the city and for the sport and for all athletic enthusiasts. So you need
Yeah.
to lean on me.
I believe they're playing sevens, Steve, but I
It's
am,
more exciting.
yeah, I'm not
The crowd will
sure.
like sevens. Yeah.
But
And we're better as a country at sevens. And the other nice thing about that matchup is, I mean, you can't guarantee victory. I'm not Joe Namath, but we should be able to handle the Philippines.
Yeah, I can find out for you. Like I said, once, I had this, the field secured, then I'm going to start finding out more about the game itself. And then I can get back to you on that, what it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm excited to help. That's a great thing. It'll be really cool.
Yeah, I think everyone will love it. I think it's another option for the regular sports that we have up in this area, the soccer, the baseball. And I think rugby can really open the door for that.
For sure.
So, and then my last one is, so I am working with someone that is from the Wild West History Roundup. They called, I spoke to them, and I'll work with Deborah on this too, but they are looking at a convention in obviously 2024. But they go around to different areas, and they do nothing but have conventions. They have authors come in, historians come in, and it's all about the Wild West. And Carson, as you can see, Carson City, I didn't even know this, but Carson City, it was number 10 among the Wild West magazine's top Western towns back in 2020. So they originally called looking to have this up in Virginia City. They were just happened to call us, I answered it, and after a while of talking to them, now they want to stay in Carson City. Obviously, Virginia City would be a field trip for them. But she had been through Carson City like 20 years ago, so she was somewhat familiar with it. So it's a long term, but this convention's a 4-day convention. They have like gunfight events, just like old Western history. So they are excited to work with us, and this is something, even though it's long term in 2024, it's something that can bring even more exposure. And Carson being the perfect, I mean, our whole area being historic is the perfect spot for a convention like this. And they bring in hundreds of people. I mean, they go to different parts of the country for different conventions, and they bring in a lot of out-of-towners. So that is something I'm working on, obviously long-term, but I feel pretty confident about it.
Are they looking for, sounds like they need sizable banquet space or convention space?
Yes, they do. They will. She's going to be going over with me the specs they were looking for, what they're going to be needing. It's a little bit hard to estimate because they're coming off COVID like everyone else, so they haven't had it for a couple of years. So usually the turnouts are hundreds of people, but with COVID, she can't give me a solid estimate on that, but we will need a convention. I think it'll take the cooperation of all the, the properties, obviously.
This might be something, the MAC? I don't know. If it's,
The
they've
MAC,
got the-
yeah, I mean, they would consider anything, anything where they can have a big convention, then break off meetings, which the MAC would be able to handle that as well. So,
all right.
any questions? All right,
All
Thank
right,
you.
Thanks, Stu.
Sure.
We'll move on to 10's D, Arts and Culture Update. Deborah?
Deborah Soul here, for the record. So, I am going to tell you about our current status on the cultural maps today, talk a little bit about the Reno Tahoe Airport Art Exhibition that is going to be underway very soon, the Sierra Arts Foundation collaboration opportunities that we're looking into, and a little bit about Mark Twain Days and a benefit show coming up shortly. So the cultural asset maps, we're in the final stages now of developing and creating the map series. The templates have been developed and all of the content from our database has been inserted. And this is the general format that the maps are going to take that I've put up here on the screen just to give you a bit of a glimpse into what they'll be like. There are still some refinements to be made, but essentially what we've got is a map that will come up on the screen with a sidebar that identifies all of the destinations under each of the tabs across the top. So the map is broken down into the location of organizations, facilities, cultural heritage destinations, creative businesses in Carson City, arts education destinations, events and festivals, and then another tab for public art. And when you select any of the items from that central screen, the little blue dots that have numbers on them are associated with the tabs on the left. And you click on either one of those, and it would open up for you a window, that's the black box there on the right, which shows you an illustration and some information about, basic information about each destination. And then if you click on that, it actually takes you to the website for each of the organizations or destinations where you can see what's on, current shows, current activities and events. And if it's a destination, for example, where there's tickets to be purchased, you can actually do it all from the asset map site. So it's very user-friendly, interactive, and comprehensive in terms of all of the assets that we have here in Carson City. The Reno Tahoe Airport Art Exhibition show, I'm happy to say, is coming very close to fruition. It's taking place from November, actually 3rd until February the 1st. So it runs over the Christmas period at the airport, which is an ideal time for us to get some exposure about Carson City and about the Stewart Indian School Cultural Center and Museum in particular. Bobby is working very hard at pulling that show together. I'm offering help in any and every way I can. I'm sure that she could give you a better rundown of the content, but essentially it's going to include visual and printed information displays about the history and the story of the school itself. And it will also include exhibitions of the artwork from the Stewart School, both historical works that were created by students themselves, as well as artworks that are currently on display and that work through the Stewart School. The contemporary Great Basin artist work will also be on display. And there's also a collaboration taking place with this exhibition. The Nevada State Museum has stepped in, has also offered some of their pieces from their collection and some of the artwork from their collection that will also be featured in this show. So it's really wonderful that we've got this joint effort taking place, and all of it will be featured at the airport over Christmas. I'm also looking at some collaboration with the Sierra Arts Foundation. We've talked about working together on some arts and culture projects here in Carson City. And now we're in particular looking at something for most likely early next year. They would like to bring to Carson City an event that they've held in Reno, which is outdoor performances, both musical and theatrical performances on a golf course. And apparently it went over extremely well in Reno, and they're excited to give it a try here. So we'll collaborate with them and see what we can pull together on that, as well as an art show that we would like to hold on the legislature grounds, which I think would be a unique location for an arts show, an outdoor art show. So there will be more on that coming, I'm sure. And I also wanted to give you an update on the Mark Twain Days Festival. There's a benefit show taking place on October the 22nd. That's a Saturday night at the Brewery Arts Center. And McAvoy Lane is going to be performing, and he has graciously agreed to donate all of the ticket sales, all of the proceeds from this show to the fund for the Mark Twain Days Festival. So we're hoping that we're going to get a good turnout for that benefit show. I'm sure it will be very enjoyable and also very helpful towards the Mark Twain Days Festival itself in April. And that's it for me. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Deborah? Did you point out that there was a QR code right there? All they had to do was scan their phone and they could purchase the tickets while Lydia's getting set up? Okay. Thank you, Deborah, for that update. That's great. And Bobby, thank you for all the work that you're putting in for the exhibition at the airport. So I think this is going to be a really cool exhibition for us and for Carson City, for these folks as they're coming into and out of the airport. So thank you all. We'll go ahead and move on to 10E, Marketing and Public Relations Update. Lydia Beck, take it away.
Thank you. So we're going to start off today with our PR report. We have some big updates for PR this month. We had a pretty unbelievable month as far as PR is concerned. We're name dropping left and right this month. So we had some huge publications pick up stories for us, one being Photos Travel and the other Travel and Leisure. So I was able to present the Photos Travel last month. You were able to see that about the hauntingly beautiful destinations. And then Travel and Leisure picked us up for their article for 12 scenic U.S. train rides to see fall foliage and featured the V&T for us there. You can also see us in Edible Reno Tahoe for their Capital Good Time article that featured solely just Carson City. The print version of it is really beautiful. So we were very happy to see that. That was a lead that was well over a year in the making. They actually came last fall and did the special Ghost Walk tours, and this was finally printed last month. We also have a press release out that went out on the wire about our activation, which I'll go more into after this. So we put a huge dent in our earned PR goal for this month. So to have this many major stories and this amount of quality publications put a huge dent in our goal for the month and for the year, to be honest. So just a huge kudos to Nicole and the team over at KPS3 who helped foster and create so many of these leads. And we also had a couple of media fams this month. We had Nora Tart, who came and published for the San Jose Mercury story about the haunted streets of Carson City. It has a pretty wide reach. And then we also hosted Jay Jones from Lonely Planet. So that was a huge win for us by the way of Travel Nevada. So they have been throwing some incredible influences our way that we're working with, and writers as well, and including us in their fams on that Lake Tahoe loop they're promoting. So big thank you to Tracy over there.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Just, I mean, do any of these influencers, when they do a fam tour, write anything bad or fail to write anything? I don't mean about us. I just mean in general.
Sometimes.
Really?
Sometimes. No, we haven't had that experience, but I have seen it.
Well, I mean, so someone would invite them in and they're like, yeah, no, not so much. Don't
Some
go
of them give an honest experience. I feel like a lot of times it happens more with food influencers to give a really honest opinion. We've had a couple of articles where they had a good experience, but it wasn't great, and they're pretty honest about that. And sometimes I appreciate that too. It's not something we love to see,
curious.
but
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often. I think it's just kind of they find a tactful spin on it most of the time.
I mean, I just
anything
wonder
does
if it's kind
happen.
of like a quid pro quo sort of thing where, we bring them in and we take care of them and they say something nice and, I mean, it still benefits us. I'm not denying that, but I mean, I wonder how honest it really is. I
It
guess
truly
is-
depends on who you bring in. Sometimes you bring people in with that expectation where you know that they are going to be blunt about whatever they
Right.
do. And so I think it's also who you're choosing to have come to your destination. But I feel like I haven't seen anything that wasn't honest.
Yeah.
So
Okay, thanks.
And Lydia, Stacy, or Member Giomi, we vet these folks, so there's an entire process. So, whether it's Nicole and Lydia or Nicole, and then it goes through Lydia. So there's like I feel like we have multiple levels of review and vetting before we would bring somebody in, because we don't want to be put in a position where we bring the wrong person in,
Right.
somebody that's
Mhm.
expecting an experience that you could have in New York City. Well, you're not going to necessarily have that here, right? Or San Francisco or something like that.
I
So-
just wonder, I mean, look, obviously, I don't follow influencers. I know you find that hard to believe, but, but I mean, I sort of wonder in my mind if people are like, okay, they visited someplace else and they love it. Okay, they visited someplace else and they love it. I mean, it just,
your question is more to
Anyway,
the validity
yeah, I mean, I
of their
guess,
review.
yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you bring them in, we pay for them to stay here, we give them food, we show them around, and they're like, no, I hated the place, and it's not gonna happen, right? So, I mean, I wonder, but look, if it generates interest and people come here because of their followers, I just wonder about, I guess it's more comment on society than on anything else. So, never mind.
No,
Sorry I went down
that's
that
fair.
path.
But I think
Sorry.
that goes back to the vetting process. Is we're bringing people who are interested in things to do in Carson City,
Right.
so they're going to talk about the things that they love to do here. So we make sure that they're a fit, so that doesn't happen.
Right.
So is it biased in the way that we're bringing people who, of course, are going to love Carson City? Yes.
Well, and so maybe it's more targeted marketing than anything else. And
I
that's-
would
that's
say
the way
that-
to look at it instead
yes.
of being jaded like I'm trying to be.
We are
Thank you.
finding people who are a good fit for Carson
They're
City.
not necessarily a hired gun or just here for the freebies.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think we match our strengths to an
Yeah.
influencer.
Well, I mean, that's really what your success, really. I mean, that's, to your credit. So anyway, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And all of these were actually media and journalists this month, I think, except for actually that was last month. So all of these were actually journalists that came for this month, and we're looking for articles. Some of them we do get a daily email called "Help a Reporter Out," the HARO request, and so the leads from photos and travel and leisure actually came from a HARO request that Nicole nurtured as well. So they actually didn't even come here. It was us sending them pertinent information to be able to create this article for them too. So. All right, and speaking of the actually on this, I'm sorry, I wanted to also point out, so when we put something out on the wire, that means that we're actually paying that to get distributed through the news app system. So it goes out to thousands and thousands of people to who might want to pick up the story. And so you can see in that black square, the Newsbreak app was our number one referral to our website in September. And so you can see that was basically just off of the activation story alone. So we were very excited to see that, and that the activation did get out to a lot of people. And so speaking of that, we're not sure that the activation could have gone much better at Harvey's a couple of weeks ago. So, and Dave can speak a little bit more to that if he would like, but conservatively, we had 1,000 to 1,500 people stop by the booth. So bandanas, gum, a momentous photo that they were able to take in the booth really kind of flew out the door. To give some perspective on that, that's roughly 20% of the crowd that attended the sold out concert. So we are continuing to see if we can fit one more in this fiscal year, depending on who the June acts are at Harvey's, and make sure that kind of Western theme fits. Or maybe we could alter it a little bit to make it fit, just depending on who that is. So even though this was, a huge investment on our part, the engagement and the eyeballs and the memorable impression that we left here, I would definitely say our ROI is positive from this experience.
And yes, Member Giammi, that is me in the picture. I know you can't tell, but it is my backside.
Apparently, Dave was the ultimate showman of the booth, handing out bandanas and gum and wrangling people in. And so we're very
It was a
grateful
team
for his
effort.
enthusiasm.
Yeah,
but
no, I was upselling the gum when we ran out of bandanas with an hour and a half to go. I mean, I think we could have went through 1,000, maybe even 1,500 bandanas. We had people coming back, realizing that they didn't get one and were asking, where did you get one? And so they were coming back during the concert. We didn't have any left. I saw people, they were coming off their arms and legs and people were grabbing them up behind and stealing their bandana. I mean, it was crazy, you guys. But I won't talk for a lot. But I'll just want to say, seeing people like laughing, giggling, like 5, 6-year-old kids riding the horses. My God, it was funny, right? I mean, how many people can you get on the horse, right? Right? There are like 10 people in there trying to take a picture, three, on the horses. It was pretty cool. And the stick horses, they loved them. But here's my observation, you guys. It's Tahoe, and still I'm answering questions about where is Carson City? And I said, it's 25 minutes over the hill. Couldn't believe it, right? So just talking about what we have to offer and was enlightening again. I think we have a lot of opportunity, and as Lydia said, I think shifting maybe from trying to do some full-scale thing in Sacramento, which will be very, very costly, to maybe looking at additional opportunities up at the lake, I think is really our answer, to be honest with you.
I don't see any reason not to be at every single concert they have up there. For the price and
Yeah.
for the ROI, it's brilliant. It brings in the people that
Yes.
come to, I mean, not everyone up there is from this area.
right.
Correct,
They,
yeah.
they, we're using their draw to benefit us. It was brilliant. I mean,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
we were right across
kudos to all
from
of you, seriously.
T-Mobile, who had a amazing booth that they traveled just around to Luke Combs. That was like a $750,000 deal, right? That they
might be a
go
while
around.
before you get that.
Yeah, no. We'll need some city money. I think it's general fund money. Thank you, Member Giomi, for offering that up. Yeah, so, and we will work with the folks up at Visit Lake Tahoe and with Sierra, who oversees the Caesars Entertainment. This was kind of a unique opportunity because we were actually in the space where Caesars Rewards was at every concert up until this point, and then it was kind of a luck, right? So, circumstances allowed us to get in there, and it was awesome. I mean, you're like right there where 80-90% of the people are coming through the gates, so it was such a fun atmosphere, honestly. So yeah, we're gonna keep exploring. I mentioned to the lady who runs it that we'd like to be considered for next summer, and like Lydia said, I don't know if we'll get in before the end of this fiscal year, but maybe for July, August, and September, we'll budget for it. And, we've got all the infrastructure. Well, I don't want to take Lydia's, but, the tent. Anyway, you go, Lydia. Yeah, you talk
Thanks.
about it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we had live coverage from the event. We had post-event coverage on social media, and in addition to that press release that went out on the wire. So I wanted you to see some of that content. And a reel was also made that went out on TikTok and on Instagram. So I don't know how loud this will be.
Then you rolled in with your hair in the wind, baby, without warning. I was doing all right, but just your side had my heart storming. The moon went high and stars quit shining. Rain was dropping, thunder, lightning. You wrecked my whole world when you came and hit me like a hurricane. You hit me like a hurricane.
So just a fun recap. Definitely got some eyeballs, and I think we learned some good lessons too of the engagement that we want to get from the photo booth and encouraging reposting and having visiting our socials. I think we could improve on that, but overall, I think it was a smash.
Can I just say, KPS3 of the team was great.
They
Like,
were. I
and
mean,
the
they.
Tap Snap lady, Melissa, was like awesome and very accommodating. We were allowed to basically stay there until we had to break down. I mean, she was so kind to let us stay until, I don't know, maybe 8:39 or whatever before we had to start breaking down instead of, I don't know, when Luke came on or something. She was just wonderful, so it was,
Yeah.
yeah, we really got our money's worth, I would say, out of the concert.
I agree. And KBS3 did an incredible job considering that when the opportunity arose to being able to design, create, print, set up the whole booth was a very short period of time. And so just we're really grateful to have them in our corner and have a great marketing agency to be working with us too. So any questions on that? Yeah. All right. Well, in front of you now is our billboard that is up, our new billboard that's up in Tonopah with the new graphics from the campaign. So we wanted to keep the nostalgic feel. And I feel like we were able to do that. And since this is only a 30-mile-per-hour driving zone, we went for a solid feel-good line from the commercial and let the imagery speak for itself. And we didn't want to overwhelm with too many photos so that your eyes weren't taken away from Visit Carson City or that nostalgic line. For our digital update, this is a roundup of all of our digital advertising outside of paid social. So last month, in my very long presentation, there was something in Performance Max that I talked about. So that's a new type of digital advertising that Google is offering. And for some people, it's not performing well. And for others, it is what Dave would say, gangbusters. And so we are on the gangbusters side. And so we are going to be allocating some more dollars. As you can see, the cost for almost the same amount of clicks is minuscule in comparison to our general search campaign. And so we are going to be continually monitor that and optimize that to make sure that we are getting our events and conversions as best as we can. So we're excited to see that. We're excited to see that our bounce rate is lower across the board for this month. And so we are continuing to optimize the website on top of that to continue to bring that bounce rate down overall across the website, not just on our Google campaigns. So happy to dive into any strategy here if you have any questions on that. So our top website content for September is what you're seeing here. You can see that our audio tour is now topping the charts at number 9. So that's what that website landing page hyperlink is. And this month, our social ads focused on our fall blogs, fall events, the newsletter, and the overall campaign. So it's not surprising to see that Rail Bikes, the Harvest Train, and our events page in general is up there in our top 10. And then on the bottom here, this the box on the very bottom, you can see that we're tracking events on our website. So this is just one of them, but obviously our most important, and that's our lodging referrals. So this is what our entire Google search campaign is geared towards. It's to get people who are looking for and have interest in Carson City to stay the night. And so we're tracking the amount of people that land on our hotels page on our website and click off to our partners, whether that's Gold Dust West or the Plaza, or we have all of them listed. So we have them tracking those events every time they click off to a hotel or your website. We track that. And so in September, you can see that we had over 1,000 people click over to our partner hotels from our websites. And we will continue to optimize those campaigns to even drive that up as far as we can.
8.6% to me is a pretty good referral rate. And would you consider that?
Yes, very much so. Our search campaign has a pretty solid click-through rate for that reason. And so we're finding that the Performance Max campaign is even helping drive that up farther. So we're excited to see that. I don't know the full average, but I know that we're outperforming the average, but I can't, for the life of me, remember what that exact number is. And lastly, we have some new video content. So we've been fostering a great relationship with Yelp Reno. So even though their name is Yelp Reno, they actually cover kind of all of Northern Nevada. So they cover our restaurants as well as even Carson Valley, some up at the lake as well. 3 of our restaurants in town have been featured on their top 25 list for the year, which was Scoops, TJ's Corner Cafe, and Villa Basque. So we're working with Michael Tregash up there to not only continue to foster those relationships with Yelp Reno, because a lot of what he offers us is free to us. So we're actually going to be looking to do a Yelp Elite event soon and coordinate that to bring people not only from the Reno area that are Yelp Elites, but also Sacramento, San Jose, anyone that might be willing to come here and experience something new in a destination that they don't live in. So he's been an incredible asset. Zach is finished the Scoops video, which is what you're going to see today, which is what they put on their social channels and their websites. But he's also finishing up TJ's by the end of this week, and then they still have to shoot Villa Bass. So we've got great content that we have for ourselves, but also for Yelp Reno. The positive feedback has been kind of overwhelming from these. I think people are excited to see more of the restaurant scene in Carson City, and this partnership has been a great way to do that. So.
Scoops is an ice cream and soup shop that we created here in Carson City, Nevada. We wanted to have something for kids, really, is where things started. I love being able to see all the kids playing and the families coming out. It's an area where families can come and have a great day. There's times we'll have bands on the plaza. So it's just a fun, friendly, comfortable place to be and enjoy your day. Scoops was here to be here for the public, for kids, and it is. Scoops is, for me, just an amazing place. Every day is a new beginning, and I'm just grateful. And I just appreciate the love that comes back. Coming to work here is just my passion. We serve our ice cream in cones, cups, waffle cones. We have sundae bowls if you want to order a sundae. We have single scoop sundaes, double scoop, triple if you want, brownie sundaes, cookie sundaes, ice cream sandwiches, milkshakes, malts. We have
That's
free
Michael.
toppings, sprinkles, depends on what you'd like. Our sandwiches are amazing. Our chicken salad sandwich is something that's quite popular. Our stackers, pulled chicken with coleslaw and great flavors. People really do enjoy everything here. So if you haven't come down to Carson City in a while, I welcome you to check out the Capitol, the museums. We have a beautiful train museum. Come to McFadden Plaza. Have the kids enjoy the water out there. And then you can join us at Scoops Ice Cream and Soup Bar to end your day with soup, salad, ice cream, and sandwiches.
Thanks to Vivian, Zach's daughter, who was our child in the video. We're pretty scrappy with our talent budget, I'll tell you that. So that's just another testimonial to Zach and the great work that he does. He's been a wizard lately, just storytelling in Carson City. So we are happy to have him on the team, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Lydia? Thank you,
Thank you.
Lydia. Yeah, lot going on, so good work to you and Zach. All right, we will go ahead and move on to 10F, future agenda items. Any requests from board members for next month's meeting? Yes, sir.
I don't have any agenda items. There's two things I wanted to mention last meeting, and I forgot to mention to you that Lori Bagwell, Mayor Bagwell, will be the president of the Nevada League of Cities in 2023. And the Nevada League of Cities annual conference will be in Carson City in 2023. If I am successful in my reelection, I will be the president of NACO, which is Nevada Association of Counties, in 2024. Whether I'm reelected or not, NACO will be holding their annual conference in Carson City in 2024. And it's their 100th anniversary? Can't be. It is a major, it could be 50th. It's a major, I forget what it is, but it's a major milestone. So those will bring in, between 200 and 300 people from around the state, all over the state.
Excellent.
All government, generally all government employees,
Okay.
plus some vendors as well. So, back-to-back years. So those are good
Is that
events.
something we could help with RFQs to get out to the hotels for host hotels?
Yes.
At some point when the time is
Yes,
right, and
yes.
Stu could help
Yep.
with both?
I mean, I'm
Okay.
sure the League of Cities will be contacting you pretty soon here because they're,
Yeah,
I reach out to Mayor Bagwell. Stu.
okay,
And I will get with you when the time comes for 24. It'll probably be, long about June or July of next year for the 24 year.
because they just had NACO up in Virginia City.
NACO was
I
in
think,
Virginia City.
a week and a half or so ago.
Correct.
2
Next
weeks ago.
year, 24, NACO is in Elko.
Okay,
And then it comes here.
okay, that's great.
And so they had the biggest attendance they've ever had in Virginia City.
Wow.
I don't remember the number, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 people, I think.
That's great.
And again, these are all, county commissioners from around the state of Nevada. So it's a great opportunity
Yep.
to showcase our community. And they
Love it.
typically try and do, they do a president's event on the first night. Second night, they do a dinner and a dinner. And then on the third day, they typically do tours of some one or two very interesting events. So it was a couple of places in Trick that they toured out of Virginia City because of Story County. And I think for us, the 24 tour ought to be maybe one of the manufacturing plants here in town to highlight that. But also in my opinion, the prison would
Oh,
be
yeah,
a really good tour
I
because
like that.
it's something that people can't normally get into and,
Right.
you know.
Yep, do a special, oh, that's great.
Anyway,
Member
so
Jeremy,
that
thank
just
you.
want to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's, anybody have a request for next month? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to 10G, upcoming meeting. So our next meeting will be right here, Monday, November 14th at 4 PM. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Jones.
Thank you, David. We'll move on to item 11, board comments or announcements, requests for information from the board. Board Member Rader?
Yes, this is Bobby Rader. I would just like to let people know that today is National Indigenous Peoples Day, according to President Biden. In his proclamation, he said, on Indigenous Peoples Day, we honor America's first inhabitants and the tribal nations that continue to thrive today. I encourage everyone to celebrate and recognize the many Indigenous communities and cultures that make up our great country. And I have a couple of announcements about Stewart. We are opening a new exhibit in the Great Basin Native Artist Gallery this Wednesday, and it will be on display from October 12th through May 26th. And it is called Dancing for the Earth, Dancing for the People, and it's about powwow regalia, and it is curated by Melissa Malero Moose. And then thirdly, the alumni at Stewart would like us to have the museum open on Nevada Day, the Saturday of the parade day. And they would like us to put out an announcement that they would like to have people come forward with any Stewart artifacts or photographs that they would like to either donate or scan. So that's what we're looking at. And I'll get you more information as we finalize that. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? That we'll move on to item 12, public comment. I don't see any public comments, so we'll move on. Our last responsibility, and that's to adjourn. If I can get a motion,
I make a motion to adjourn.
we're adjourned.